Welcome, jesters. One of the most ridiculous things, or one of the more ridiculous things, okay, fine, they're all ridiculous, but one of the most ridiculous things that our friends on the left try and own us with is this notion that red states are dependent on blue states, for tax revenue or whatever, because blue states contribute more in taxes, than red states, and red states get more in taxes than red states. Well, okay, let's talk about that real quick, because as usual, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so a couple things. There's a couple things that skew these statistics, and one of them is the fact that most corporations, especially most older, larger corporations, are headquartered in large urban areas which do tend to be blue. We get that. It's not shocking. So let's just say when Boeing reports their financials, depending either corporate or by the division, it's going to be credited to Seattle or Chicago. Is that where they are? Or maybe even Washington now, right? All blue areas. When the aircrafts that make them the most money are built in South Carolina. So yeah, that doesn't work. Also, as a consequence of, poor Democrat policy, most blue cities and blue states have a higher cost of living, which means that salaries and wages have to be adjusted to compensate for that, which does mean that, yes, people are paid more and people earn more in blue areas, but because the cost of living is so much higher, it actually doesn't matter. But because tax rates, especially federal tax rates, are the same across the country, right? The higher wages to compensate for the higher cost of living in blue areas means that they actually pay more in taxes than people in red states, where the wages are commensurately lower because of lower cost of living. Which means, yes, right proportionally, a higher amount of taxes are collected from blue areas, and then when they are, let's just say, evenly distributed around the country, which is only fair, let's be honest, that does mean that proportionally red states and red areas will get more tax money back from the federal government than they put in. Again, that's only because, right, in blue areas, the cost of living is higher, so they have to be paid more, so they have to pay more taxes. That's it, right? And this isn't a bad thing. Why is it a bad thing at all? First of all, the money's being evenly distributed, right, without apportionment. But I'll take it this way. You know what? That's great. Fine. We will take the deal. Absolutely, we will take the deal. Free money? Of course, right? If we can dupe the idiots in blue cities and blue states to pay our bills, why shouldn't we? Right? Because all this means is our politicians are better than theirs because they're actually getting more than we're putting in. All right? I'm not gonna argue with that because it's true, right? So we're getting you people, our friends, our leftist friends in the blue cities and states to subsidize this. Now, the dirty little secret, which isn't really secret because we keep saying this, is we don't need the money. We really don't need the money. Red state economies are growing at a much, much faster rate than any blue area, right? And you can go look up this data. It's not that hard. So we don't need the money. But quite frankly, if you're going to continue to pay our bills, yeah, we're going to take the money. Why wouldn't we? So who's smarter here? Who is getting the better deal, right? Right? You continue to whine, you still pay the bill, and then we get more out of this. So yeah, we'll take the bill. And when I say that we don't need the money, we don't need the money here in Florida or across the South or in any red state really. Look at Mississippi right now, right? They have a higher GDP per person than Canada. Yes, Canada with free healthcare and everything like that. Yeah, Mississippi's doing better than Canada. So when I say that we don't need the money, we don't need the money. But if we can continue to get you idiots to pay us more money, yes, we will take that deal. And all that says is our politicians are better and we are simply smarter than you because we are getting the money. And you know I'm right.